going for today. Let's see who's hopping on. And today I just want to talk about in terms of when you get a gig, like you get booked for a gig, the whole thing about getting booked is to get booked consistently. So it's not just one gig. How do you get consistent gigs? And so that's what I want to go over today in terms of getting the gigs consistently, but more importantly, the questions you need to be asking yourself after you get booked. So after you get booked, you need to do a certain series of things in order to get booked again and again and again and again. So that's what I want to talk about today. This is something that, I'm assuming other people did it, but this is one of the things that I truly did after every single gig that I booked. I freaking did this on a whole new level. And I want everybody to understand that you guys should be doing this if you want to speed up the process of getting on stages, just getting on more stages and just doing it consistently. So if this thing will pop up, then I can see who's hopping on right now. Let's see. All right. So I think we got about 20 billion people who just hopped on. So let's see. What's up, Nick? What's up, Alex? What's up, Richard? Maggie? What's up, peeps? And so, it reminded me when Maggie actually posted inside the group. So, in case you guys didn't get the email, in fact, here, let me show you this. So I mentioned in terms of how Maggie here, how she got her highest paying gig, $30,000 gig, right? And so it reminded me of what I would do after I got these gigs. So after I got the high paying gigs, or pretty much any gig, I did a couple things after I got these gigs, and that's what I want to remind everybody to do, what we're going to talk about today. So let's wait a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. All right, we waited. Cool. All right. So Maggie was killing it. All right. So what's up, Wani? So ultimately, when you get booked, and this is what you need to do with everything, whether you get booked, whether you're doing online stuff, doesn't matter. You do this with everything. You have to figure out how you're going to repeat the process. And so what you do is you have to dissect everything. Think about how you get good at anything. The way you get good at anything is you figure out first what to do. You kind of learn it a little bit. You do it, you practice it, and then the way practice works is you need feedback in order to improve. This is why everyone keeps talking about having a coach and all that, because a coach provides feedback, but most of the times you don't have a coach. When it comes to sports, it makes sense to have a coach. When you are doing outreach, you don't really have a coach the way you have a sports coach. And so you have to essentially be your own coach by asking the questions that I'm about to tell you to ask yourself. So what's up, Glenn? What's up, Kathy? And so here's what I would do. I would get booked, and then right after I start asking myself these questions, the number one question, and this is what everything comes down to, is how do I get better? How do I do all of this better? Literally, that's the number one question, and I'm going to dissect all these other questions that I go into. But ultimately, if you want to think in terms of one thing, is just how do I get better at everything I just did? So think about it. You just sent a cold email or made a cold call, and eventually, after you had a conversation, you got booked. But then what happens with most speakers, they get booked, and then all of a sudden they stop doing what got them booked. They work on their presentation. The gig is, let's say, 3-4 months out. They're like, I got to get my presentation right. I'm like, dude, what you going to do for 3-4 months? Come on, man. You can't just back up and just not actually do any business anymore. You got to literally dissect what just happened in order to make it happen again. And so ultimately you're saying what could I have done better? So here's a couple questions that I would ask myself. Number one, how could I have changed the email? So when you're sending out the cold emails, it's almost like, well, how could I have changed the email? And by the way, this is a successful email. Remember, you got booked already. You sent the email out, you got booked. Most people don't do anything when they have success. This is why Bill Gates, let me see if I could get this quote up. Bill Gates success quote. So let's see, what did he say? It was something like, let's see. Okay, yeah, so here we go. Let me show you guys this. So he said, success as a lousy teacher is seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. And so you have to understand that whenever you become successful at anything, you have to kind of step back from that thing to figure out how to repeat it. Because what most people do when they become successful at something is they think I'm the best, I'm the bomb diggity. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that. That'd actually help you, to be honest. But you still have to step back, and you can't truly believe it. So let me back that up. You believe it because you have a reason to believe it. And so there's a difference between thinking that you're the best and not having a reason to believe it versus thinking that you're the best because you truly are, like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, he's the best because he practiced so much, and that's why he became the best. Same with Kobe. On the other hand, if you're some high school player, like you're some high school basketball player and you're pretty good and you're like, I'm the best. And then all of a sudden that gets to your head. You no longer practice anymore. You no longer try to figure out how to get better. And so that's essentially what Bill Gates was saying. Like, hey, if you don't figure out how to get better, you simply won't. And this is why you have to sit down when you get a gig, you have to dissect how you got that gig, everything about it. So little things like the email, I think, how could I make this email better? I look at how did they respond to the actual email? What should I have said? So not just what did I said, what should I have said? Like what would I have changed? And I start to adjust for the next time. So it's really, really important that you keep doing this no matter what it is. So here's what I would do. So I would ask these questions, and at the time I had the software Yesware. If you don't have a software like Yesware, you're missing out. You're missing out on this one. So you need a CRM and you need Yesware or something similar to Yesware. If you had to choose between the two, by the way, get the CRM first. You always need the CRM first, then you can get a software like Yesware. But ultimately what I would do, so after I got booked, I would simply look at, okay, they opened the emails, obviously, but how fast did they respond? So if I sent the email today, they open it, how fast did they respond back to me? Like what was that speed? Was it a day? Was it 2 days? Was it a week, 3 weeks? How long did it take them to respond? I looked to see how many or how often did they forward the emails? So did they forward it to other people? And this is what Yesware is going to tell you, by the way. Like Yesware tells you all this stuff. That's what the system's for. I looked to see like, okay, when did they click on the link to the website? So it's like they obviously clicked on the link to the website. Hopefully it'd be kind of weird if they paid all that money and they didn't actually see the website. But did they click on the website? Like when did they click? I'm looking at all this stuff. And what I'm really, really doing is I'm looking at the conversation that's going back and forth between us. And so I just go into whether I'm looking on the phone or on the computer. I was looking on the computer at the time, but it's like I would go back and forth and I would just look to see like, how did that go? Like I sent an email and then they waited maybe 3 days to reply. And then I responded immediately. They waited 5 days to reply. I will look at that whole thing. And once again, it's just a matter of me getting information to dissect and how to repeat the cycle and how to improve it for the next time. And so it's just like, when was my initial contact? So let's say I contacted them August 1st, and then I got the gig August 23rd. And so I look at that. I look to see, all right, when did I initially contact them? When did I get the gig? I look at all that stuff. That's the stuff that you have to look at. You have to dissect all of this. You can write it down if you want. You can just keep it in your brain. I recommend like actually taking notes. That's the whole purpose of your CRM. You put all those in your notes. At the time, I'll be honest, I didn't really put this in the notes. I was just kind of going off the dome. I was like, all right, so let's see. All right, it was a pretty good amount of time between when I sent the email and then when they replied. Like it was just all in my head. If I had to go back, I would actually put it inside the CRM. That way I wasn't just going off of memory, because your memory, it plays tricks on you. And so it's dumb to just go off of memory. And so I would look at all that stuff in terms of how long they reply back. Those are the things that I would look at in Yesware. I would go inside the CRM at this time and I would look at the conversation, like literally how the whole conversation went. What did I say? What did they say? How did I say it? How did they say this thing? I would look at all that. Did I sound in demand? How could I have sounded more in demand? That's what I was really looking at, by the way. When I was looking at the conversations, I was trying to figure out how could I have sounded more in demand, like as if I'm a freaking rock star celebrity speaker. That's ultimately what I was trying to do in every single email conversation. That's what you want to do. And you want to look at your email conversation, dissect it and say, oh, I should have said it this way, or I should have said this. I should have added this part. That's what you want to do. Even though you got the gig, I'm telling you, go back, look at the conversation and think, what should I have done instead? How could I have gotten, instead of $30,000, how could I have actually said something in a way to make it look like I can charge $50,000? So that's really, really what you're trying to do. Whereas what most people do, they get the gig and then it's just done. They're just like, they get the gig, like, okay, cool. Maybe they'll move on to the next one or something and they'll start talking with the next people. But you always, always, always have to dissect those. I even do this with the online programs. I mentioned this a while ago. When someone buys the Speak Pro Academy, what I do is I actually go into the active campaign and I look at all the emails that were sent to them. I say, okay, here's when they signed up. Here's the emails that they're opening. Here's did they respond to it? And I'm looking at all that stuff. And if someone were to, I think about 90% of the time when someone signs up to the email list and they buy the Speak Pro Academy within a couple days, like literally, they don't know who I am. They buy within a couple days. I damn near always call them up immediately. Like I just call them. I'm just like, hey, yeah, this is Benji Bruce with Speaking Lifestyle. I was actually wondering. I noticed that you bought the program. Like, did you access it? And I start talking to them. Like, oh, so like, I'm curious. Why did you buy so fast? And that's actually what I asked them. I'm like, why did you buy so fast? Like, and because I'm curious. I mean, how is it that someone who doesn't know me, they don't know anything about the business, nothing, they just pay $2,000 a year, $5,000 a lifetime? And I'm wondering, like, what made them buy fast? That way I can dissect it. So when everyone else comes into the funnel, I can figure out how to get people to buy faster. I do the same thing with the gigs. Whenever I get a gig, whenever you get a gig, you dissect it so you can say, how can I make this thing go faster? Instead of it taking a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 5 months, how do you make it happen instantly? Like, ultimately what you want to do, you send out an email and then they instantly book. That would be the ideal situation. I don't think it'd ever get there, but that'd be pretty cool. But that's what you're really, really trying to do. That's the ultimate goal that you're trying to get to. And so you're simply asking, like, well, how did this email conversation go? If they say something like, it's more than our budget, you ask yourself, all right, well, what did I say when they said it's more than our budget? Most speakers are like, oh, it's more than our budget. Okay, well, and they'll negotiate against themselves, all sorts of stuff. So you start saying like, how could I have done this a little bit differently? It's really, really important that you start to think that way. And also what I was doing is I was looking at what kind of event is it? This is how I immediately knew that conferences were a waste of damn time. Like, absolutely a waste of damn time. Every single conference, damn near every conference I talked to, they were like, we don't pay, or you got to pay. And so I was like, man, I'm not talking to these conferences anymore. They're a waste of damn time. Every single gig that actually paid me a lot of money was not a conference. It was an annual employee event, 100% of them. And so I just stopped. I was like, forget conferences. And so that's what you're really doing. I'm looking at the type of event. I'm looking at, all right, how, oh, by the way, after the event as well, when the event is done, I'm taking pictures or just recording the presentation. I'm also looking at the room setup and everything. That's why I noticed like all the events that I would do, they all had the round tables, little things like that. People might be saying, oh, this is obvious, or whatever. The details matter, like small details like that matter, because when you're going online to look for events and you're searching award banquet and all that stuff, and I see the exact type of event that hired me for $30,000, $40,000. I see this event and I'm like, this event that I'm looking at looks the exact same as the one that paid me $30,000, $40,000. And I look at it, see it's the exact same. I say, okay, my chances of getting booked here, it increases dramatically. So that's what you're really doing when you're dissecting the events that already booked you. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them now, because when I'm done, I'll go back and I'll look at the questions. Let's see. Hola. All right. So that's what you're doing. It's kind of like, well, what event is it? How many people were at the event? You're just asking simple questions like that. And also what I did is, this is actually a field in the CRM, a custom field. It's basically like, how did I find this event? That's the custom field in this event, in the CRM. And what I mean by that is like, did I go to Google and did I type in award banquet, or did I go to Google and type in conference? Did I go to Google and type in marketing conference? Did I go into Google and type in gala? Like what did I type into Google? Or did I go to Twitter and did I use a hashtag? Did I go to Instagram? Did I go to Google image search? I'm putting all that stuff into the CRM. So when I get booked, I go back into the CRM and I analyze all of it. I'm like, all right, so what did I type in? And that's how I knew like award banquets tend to hire me the most. That's why I focus a lot on award banquets and galas. And so that's what you're really doing. At the time, I didn't know that I was creating a lead score. This is what you're really doing. You're creating a lead score. And a lead score, if you don't know what it is basically the qualities of an event that are more likely to hire you. And so if you notice certain qualities like 500 plus people, it's the the VP that contacted you. It's an annual employee event. Those are like all positives. If you notice those qualities, you put them into a lead score. And then as you're talking to events, you check mark those off. And then you're like, okay, I'll spend more time talking to these people. Whereas if you see it's a seminar and that's a negative quality, and you see, oh, there's 20 people and oh, they're charging for tickets and stuff. Those are all negative qualities. And so it's like, all right, those are negative lead scores. So I'm going to talk less with these people. So ultimately what I was doing without realizing it is I was creating a lead score inside of my head. So I could instantly look at events as I'm like Googling them or whatever. And I could pretty much damn near predict with like 80% accuracy just by looking at it like, oh yeah, I'm going to get booked by these guys. That's what you're really doing when you're analyzing everything. And so it's really, really important that you do it. And so ultimately I was looking at little things. This is the other thing that I looked at when I was really thinking about how to sound in demand. Like there was a certain point in my career when getting the gigs was really easy. Like doing the outreach all, I'm like, damn, this is easy. Like, shoot, I mean, Benji, you got it locked in, right? So then it was just a matter of how much more can I charge? It wasn't about getting booked. It was like, I wonder how much more can I charge? How can I charge more at this point? And at that point, that's when I started the WWTRD, the What Would Tony Robbins Do? And I was trying to sound more in demand. And what I was doing when I would dissect all the emails and all the events that booked me at higher rates, I ultimately started looking at, I looked at how far in advance they contacted me, because that was a huge indicator on the value that they placed on me as a speaker, on the value that they placed on me in my time. You will not send Tony Robbins an email saying, hey, we want to book Tony. Our event is next month. You would be the dumbest person in the world to think that he would be available in a month from now. Like, you'd be dumb as all hell. And so on the other hand, you would send that to someone that you don't believe is like in demand. You'd be like, hey, we got our event next month. Can you come and speak? And usually in those cases, they had a low budget and because they didn't see high value in you and everything. And so that's one of the biggest indicators that I saw in terms of the people that booked me. And what really opened my eyes to that was the gig that I did in Finland, where they spent a little around 20 grand to bring, or they spent a little over 20 grand to bring me out. And so all I did, it was a 10-minute presentation. That was all I did, literally a 10-minute presentation. And they contacted me like 8 months in advance, 7-8 months in advance. And they actually, like, as we were talking, they booked me everything. I go there, I fly there, and then the first thing I say to the guy, I was like, oh, so like, how did you hear about me? Like, where'd you find me? And he told me, and immediately he said, to be honest, like, I didn't think we would be able to book you. And I was like, why? And he said, I thought you would already be booked, and I thought you would charge even more. And I was like, damn. I was like, I could have gotten like probably 50 grand out of this thing. And I was thinking like, oh man, they contact 7-8 months in advance. And he thought I charged more at the time too. I was like, damn. All right. So immediately I knew what I was doing was working in terms of the website, the value that in terms of like how it looked high value and everything. I knew that was working. And that was like the moment I was like, oh damn. Okay. And so when you notice that people contact you further in advance like that, they have a higher value, and it's just a higher value placed on your time. So little things like that are questions that you want to look for, or questions you want to ask when you're actually dissecting your emails and your cold calls or whatever it is you're doing to do the outreach. I also asked in terms like what other speakers and entertainers did they have? And I was asking in terms of speakers and entertainers because I was looking at what were they spending money on. So it didn't matter if I was just doing a speech. I still looked to see, did they spend any money on entertainment? Because entertainment speakers, same thing, to be honest. They're just delivering something a little bit different. And so I looked to see, did they hire Jay-Z as the entertainer? And I would look at little things like that about the event because I wanted to see like little things that they were doing in terms of commonalities with events to where I could be able to easily pinpoint, this is a high paying event, this one isn't. This is a high paying event, this one isn't. That's ultimately what you're trying to do when you're dissecting everything. I looked at what's their job title. This is when I realized that job title doesn't matter. Like, it absolutely doesn't. I remember when I was just trying to get gigs, like just as an entertainer. The advice for getting gigs as an entertainer and as a speaker is damn near like identical, by the way, in case you guys don't know. It's damn near identical. And so the entertainer said the same thing as the speaker advice. It was contact HR, contact the HR department, or they would say contact the sales department or contact the marketing department. And it was usually number one, they would say contact HR, then they would say like contact sales department. And so I believe that because everyone was saying it. Everyone was like, hey, contact HR. Those are the main people. And it made sense. I was like, okay, HR makes sense. And so I started contacting HR, but then I dissected who actually hired me, who gave me the money, who did I talk to? And I realized it was damn near everybody. It was freaking HR, it was a sales manager, it was a vice president, it was a CEO, it was a freaking janitor, it was damn near everybody. And at that point I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like people are saying HR, clearly they're not getting booked because they don't know a damn thing about how this actually works. And so that's when I stopped really paying attention to speakers and entertainers in terms of the advice they were given, because I realized it was just book knowledge they were given instead of actual knowledge in terms of actual implementation. That's when I realized that there is no job title in a company that can actually hire you. Instead, the way it works is someone says, we're doing an event. The CEO says, all right, we're going to plan our annual company event. You're in charge. That's basically what they do. You're in charge. And then that person says, all right, cool. And so if there is a big company like Salesforce and they do a lot of events, then they have a whole division where, it's like they have their own meeting planner within the company, and that meeting planner does all the stuff. But I realized, like, job titles, it was absolute nonsense that these speakers and entertainers were talking about with the advice. And so that's when I really, really stopped paying attention to these speakers and entertainers in terms of their advice. I also looked to see, like, did they friend me on social media? And at the time, it was mostly Facebook. And so I looked, like, did they friend me on Facebook? And the reason why I looked at that is because it told me in terms of how well I did in terms of the actual presentation, and also is a huge sign in terms of whether or not they're going to recommend me for other events and how long that relationship is going to be. So I looked at little things like that. Did they friend me on Facebook or whatever? So I looked at little things. I asked myself that stuff. If I negotiated the price, so sometimes I would negotiate the price, especially when I started. Damn near always negotiated the price, to be honest, when I started. And so I would ask myself, like, how could I have increased my value to a point where I didn't need to negotiate my price? That's when I realized that it did come down to your website in terms of, like, how you really position yourself. That's when I started to change from going from magician to illusionist to mentalist to speaker. And so, at the time when I was like, there was a whole time period when I was thinking, how can I charge more? And so, like, how do I sound more in demand and everything? And I would look at everything in terms of how I was negotiating the price in the emails. And that's when I started to see, okay, I'm a mentalist. What if I just say I'm a keynote speaker? And then when I do the keynote presentation, I do a mentalism show. And so I just changed the name of what I did. I didn't actually change what I did. I did a mentalism show as a keynote speaker, a motivational speaker, for a whole year before someone actually asked me to freaking speak. And so, but I realized by changing that, I just charged more. And so I was looking at different ways to increase my value, and I was just always asking, like, how can I increase the value? How can I increase the perception? That's when I really paid attention to perception. Like, when I looked at the guy in the UK, this huge time mentalist, and I saw on his website where it said, for corporate gigs or corporate inquiries, contact this email. For media inquiries, contact this email. And when I saw that, I thought, damn, this dude's so, like, he's like way up there that he needs a separate email address just for media inquiries. Damn. And when I noticed that reaction on me, that's when I put it on my website, because I was like, oh shoot, I know that's going to increase my value. And so I started dissecting things like that. How do I increase my value and the whole conversation and all that sort of stuff. And also, instead of just looking at what was there, the biggest thing is you have to look at what you should have done. It's not just about what you did do, because if you're sitting there, if you're looking at what you did and you got the gig, you're going to be like, yeah, good job. I did a great job on that one. Yeah, $20,000 gig. I'm the bomb. That's what you're going to do inside of your head. You won't learn anything. So what you do is you look at it, you're like, okay, $30,000 gig. All right, what should I have done to get a $30,000 gig out of these guys? That's what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if it was a freaking $500 gig. I would say, okay, $500, what could I have done to get $800? Like, it doesn't matter. I could get $1 million. I'd still be like, what could I have done to get $2 million? Now, a lot of people, at first, I really thought there was something wrong with me, to be honest, because I didn't celebrate my wins the way everybody else did. So, like, I would win, I'd get a gig, and most people were like, yeah, I got a gig. In my mind, I was like, I did something wrong here. What could I have done a little different? I really thought something was wrong with me. I was like, I don't really like celebrate these wins all that much. And so I was like, every single time, a $30,000 gig, $20,000, didn't matter. I'm just like, I did something wrong here. What could I have done better? And so that's what you have to do. And I realize that if you look at high performers in general, every single one of them does that in terms of just, it's like you're really, really hard on yourself no matter what. And so that's what you really have to do. And so basically the bigger the gig was, the more I dissected it. And because I wanted the big time gigs, I wanted high paying gigs. So I started dissecting every single gig. That's what you have to do. You have to dissect your gigs every time you get a gig. That way you can repeat it the next time and you just have that lead score. And your lead score, it's not just in your head. You have it in your CRM, but that's what you really have to do. You have to go back to the conversation. If you're making phone calls, you got to record those phone calls. You got to dissect the phone calls. I do that all the time. Like if we have a phone call, I tell you, I record it. If anybody tells me I can't record the phone call, I hang up. I say, okay, well, you have a nice day. Click. That's what I do. Well, not with speaking gigs, by the way. I'm saying this with the programs. Like, if you guys schedule a 25-minute call with me and you tell me I can't record it, I will hang up on your ass. I'm just telling you right now, because there's no benefit. Like, there's literally no benefit. I see a bigger benefit in learning rather than just getting your $2,000. Like, I don't need your $2,000. That's why I'm like, sure, you can, if you literally say, I can't actually let you record the call, I'll say, all right, cool, take care. I did the same thing with my gigs. When people said I couldn't record the gig, I would just deny the gig. I mean, there was never a point where, there was only one time when someone actually said I couldn't record. That was the only time when someone said I couldn't record. And that was a gig I denied. If they would have offered a gang load of money, oh, for sure, I would have easily done it. But it was just a regular amount. And so that's why I just said, all right, well, take care. I was like, all right, I recommend this guy then. He's pretty good for you. It's because most people, they think too short term. They're thinking about that moment in time. You got to think 5-10 years from now. You got to think about all the knowledge that you're going to build up over time. And so that's what you're really doing in terms of you dissect everything that's about to happen. And then eventually, before you know it, it's just like you're a freaking genius. All right. So let's see if there's any questions, and then let's answer some questions if there are any. So let's see. Wani said, the process you teach a cold email feels a bit like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping that it sticks. I feel like a strategy is needed other than random emails based on search term. I'm doing cold emailing daily and getting their responses. We don't hire speakers. We already have our speaker. Doing daily outreach and not getting booked is pretty discouraging. Is there something else to outreach? Yes, I have a CRM, Yesware, and start a website. So here's the thing. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean you're doing it right. Wani, are you a Speak Pro Academy member? I don't think you're a Speak Pro member. So think about it like this. How many people are playing basketball? Tons of people. But how many of them make it to the NBA? Very few. Because very few of them can do it right. Everybody can dribble the ball, shoot the ball. A freaking 5-year-old kid can dribble and shoot the ball, but not too many of them can be Jordan or Kobe. And so it doesn't matter that you're doing the right things. You got to do those things right. You have to know how to respond when people say we don't hire speakers, or when they say we already have our speakers. I can almost guarantee you that when people say we already have our speakers, you just discount it. You're just like, we already have our speakers. Okay, cool. Thank you. And then that's it. You're done with them. What you have to do when they say we already have our speakers, you initially go into your CRM, you put all that into the CRM, and then you contact them for next year. You set up a follow-up for next year to contact them, because it's a good thing when they say we already have our speakers. And so little things like that. That's why I'm saying, like, all these people who aren't Speak Pro Academy members, I'm like, you guys are absolutely, because you don't realize that just because you're doing the right things doesn't mean you're doing those things right. And so that's why I say, like, in the Speak Pro Academy, I just get you to do those things right. And so with the cold emailing, what you're doing is that is what sales is, which is why sales is the number one industry in terms of turnover, because there is no way, absolutely none, in terms of looking at an event and being able to say they pay speakers. There's no possible way to know that. And even if you know they pay, there's no way to know they pay you. Absolutely none. So you have to contact them and ask. The cold emailing is the strategy. It's like a funnel. Remember how a funnel works. The funnel, there's a lot that's going on at the top. As you contact them, it narrows down. So it narrows down into the one or just the one or two. So it's like you contact 1,000. X number respond interested, and then it goes all the way down from 1,000, 500 to 100 to 20 to 10 to 1 and 1 booked. Like that's how sales works. But what happens is people, they get discouraged because they're like, I contacted all these people and none of them are really booking me. And it's because there's a lot of invisibles that you don't see and that you don't know that's holding you back. Like the website is hands down the number one thing that I've seen that's holding speakers back. They don't realize they have a bad website. That's the number one thing that I've seen. And even if they have a good website, they don't have the right website. So it's like how I say there's a difference between you building a personal brand and like being the expert and you being a motivational speaker getting paid is two completely different businesses. So someone over here selling their expertise, they're like, I'm an expert in sales, or no, that's the easier one. So let's say I'm an expert in iPads, or no, that's a dumb one. I'm a fitness expert. Okay, that's a good one. So I'm a fitness expert, and then this fitness expert tries to get paid gigs. It's like you're confusing the two different businesses. So the fitness expert, he may have a bomb ass fitness website, like amazing website, opt-ins, content, amazing ass website. But when he tries to get a paid gig, it doesn't work. And so it's like little things like that to where he'll be confused. He'll be like, I'm doing the cold email, but it's not working. It's like, that's because your website isn't right. And it's like, you got to have the website that's more like motivational speaker. Hey, it's a comedy motivational type of speech and all that sort of stuff. And so little things like that in terms of, that could be messing you up in terms of why you're not getting booked. But yeah, there is a systematic way of doing everything. And I'm telling you guys right now, as much as I reveal here for free, you will not get everything. Like hands down, if you're not a Speak Pro Academy member, you absolutely will not get everything. It's dumb for me to just give this stuff away. And so that's why I tell people, if you really want help, you got to join the Speak Pro Academy because you're doing the right things. You just got to do them right. And I'll tell you right now, Wani's going to get more gigs than damn near everybody else, even if he's not a member. I don't know. Are you a member? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So you say he's not a member, but I'm telling you, basically what Wani's doing is it's just going to take him longer to get the gigs. Whereas what most people do when they watch this stuff, they watch it like, okay, cool, agree, disagree. Oh, I like him, don't like him, whatever. And they don't do a damn thing. I'm telling you, 99% of people, they will not have bought a CRM. They won't have gotten Yesware. They won't have gotten their website up. Guarantee you that right now. Most people watching this, I've been saying it for a long time. They haven't done a damn thing. Wani actually did something about it. Wani's basically doing what I did in the beginning where I didn't have anyone to help me. I was just doing stuff. I was trying to figure it out myself. And it took me a really long ass time, but it eventually worked. The only thing that Speak Pro Academy is doing for you is just getting you there faster. And so right now you're trying to figure out like, how do I respond when people say we don't hire speakers? And you don't really know how to respond because you don't really know. So at this point, you're going to respond however you think you should respond. And then they're going to respond back saying, no, thank you or whatever. And then one day you'll dissect it and you'll say, what should I have done? That's what you got to keep saying. Like, what should I have done instead? Once you start doing that, you'll start dissecting everything and get better at it. And by the way, I probably should have inserted this in here. I don't know why I didn't. When you ask yourself, what should I have done? At the same time that you're doing business, you have to learn a lot. Because let's say, like right now, I'm a certain person right now. I've read a certain amount. I have all this knowledge in my brain at this point. And then I get a gig. If I dissect that gig right now without getting new information, I'm still dissecting it based on what I already know. On the other hand, if I study copywriting and I study marketing and sales, and now all of a sudden tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, I get better at it. I get better at copywriting, marketing, and sales, and I study it again. Now I start to see things that are very different. So now it's like I go back and I look at it and I say, oh, damn, Benji, what the hell? Why'd you say that? Who in the world says that? Oh, I should have said it like this. Because the knowledge in my brain as a copywriter, I'm like, okay, I could reword this to make it sound better. So that's why at the same time as you're like trying to think, what should I have done? The only way to get the right answer is to study in general, to learn. That's why everyone keeps saying, learn. You got to study like copywriting. Copywriting is a big thing that you got to study. And so you really have to do that no matter what. Let's see if there were any other questions. See, one, he said, when you said that award banquet and galas hired you the most, was that as an entertainer or as a speaker? This distinction is important. It was actually both, to be honest. So the thing that I did at the time was I would pitch one or the other. I'd pitch either speaker first or an entertainer, so I would pitch one or the other. Like, hey, hire me as a speaker or hire me as an entertainer. If they said no, I would flip it to the other one. So let's say I said, all right, I'll be the main keynote speaker. They're like, I'm sorry, we already have our speakers. What about entertainment? I see there's the little cocktail mixer. What about entertainment? And they're like, good idea. And that's what I would do because it's like an extra product that I had to tack on. But so ultimately, it was both. It's just a matter of I'm looking to see which events actually pay, and the award banquets and the galas they really do pay, just in general. Let's see. All right, got that. So you said, trust me if I had 2,000. Get it? All right, cool. All right, so I guess we are good to go on the questions. Got all the questions. All right, so if there's any other questions, I'll wait a few more seconds. Let's see if there's any there. Let's see, Micah. What's up, Micah, over there on Instagram? All right, cool. So I guess there's no other questions, but yeah, guys, that's ultimately what you want to do in terms of how you're going to repeat the process. I can't stress this enough. And I'm not talking about just with gigs. I'm talking about if you're doing anything online, you do the same thing. When you get a sale in anything, you go back to it and you kind of dissect it. And you're always dissecting no matter what, because right now, once again, there's a certain amount of knowledge that you personally have. So you can only see a certain amount when you're dissecting this on the computer. You're looking at the computer and you're saying, looks like I did everything right. But then someone else comes along, a bomb-ass copywriter, and he's like, oh, no, you should have changed these words, you should change this, because he has a different amount of knowledge. So you have to keep learning to get that new knowledge, so when you dissect, you see something different. That's how you really have to work everything. All right, so I guess we are good to go for today. All right, so let's see if there was anything else. And by the way, guys, so make sure you're at speakinglifestyle.com on the newsletter so you just get notified of when I do these Facebook Lives. But it's basically 9 a.m. every single time. So let's see. Nick said, are your videos on creating a brand on your YouTube? Yeah, so all the brand stuff, the selling your expertise, building a personal brand, all that is on the Benji Bruce stuff, like the BenjiBruce.com, the Benji Bruce YouTube channel, the Benji Bruce Instagram. Everything about speaking is getting on stages and presentation skills, all on speakinglifestyle.com. So it's completely different because I'm telling you, so many speakers get confused by this. I mean, it blows my mind that speakers cannot see the distinction between getting paid gigs and building a personal brand where you're selling your expertise and selling products and workshops. It is completely different. And so I built both. That's why I know they're so different. It's literally like boxing and MMA. They look very similar, but they're very, very different. If a boxer goes into the MMA, he will get destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. If an MMA guy goes into boxing, he will get destroyed because they're two different businesses. And so that's why I split them up to where all the stuff about selling your expertise, podcasting, content, all that stuff is on the BenjiBruce.com. All that advice is there. Everything about getting on a stage and presentation skills, it's on speakinglifestyle.com. So Nick said, I'm buying a CRM next month. Nice. All right. Let's see. Donna said, excellent teaching. This is profitable information. Nice. Cool. All right. So we are good to go for today. Yep. All right. So I will see you guys. Make sure you sign up to the newsletter to get the emails about when we're doing the Facebook Lives, but it definitely is 9 a.m. I'm always doing it Monday through Friday. It's just a matter of which channel it's on, to be honest. So I will see you guys 9 a.m. Take care. Thanks everybody for showing up. Adios.